Greetings and welcome. My name is Aaron Craig. In this video, I just want to talk about the state of GameMaker and YoYo games specifically. It's going to be super casual, and I really want to hear some feedback from you guys and questions on what you think or what you're wondering is going on. So, some of you may or may not know that I've actually been working with YoYo games on GameMaker content for a while now. I actually produced the video series on Fire Jump. So that was a infinite platformer that I showed how to create from Goopreet's written tutorial in drag and drop, and that was a really good experience. And from that, it's gone on, and now I'm actually working with them pretty much every month. Every other month, I'm doing webinars for them, and I'm creating some content for them now behind the scenes. And I say that so that I can then also say, this is my opinion. I've gotten an inside look at how they work. I know some of the people behind the scenes now, but this is not a video that I made because they asked me to, and this is not a video that I am sharing with them beforehand to get feedback and approved or anything of that sort. This is just me giving my own thoughts on GameMaker and if it's in a good state or not. So right now it's September 15th, and let's take a look at it. So GameMaker right now, I'm going to look back over the next, over the last maybe 8 months or so. So if we go back to before GameMaker was just GameMaker, go back to GameMaker Studio 2, back when Opera bought GameMaker, that was a really big deal. And a lot of people thought that it was going to be good, but they weren't totally sure. So if we look at Opera buying GameMaker, I had a couple tabs open, but we'll just open things up as we go. So they bought it back in 2021. So it's actually been a while now, but there's been a lot of things happening behind the scenes. And only recently have we really started seeing some of the stuff that's happening. Now, one of the really cool things that's happened lately is Rollback. So this is a really tight integration with Opera GX and Opera. So if you don't know what Rollback is, it's actually a free to use as a developer and free to play as a gamer server netcode integrated into GameMaker way of creating multiplayer games. So you can just load up GameMaker, use the functions that they've added. I think it's just in beta right now, but you can use what they've added to make multiplayer games like that. It's actually really simple. I just did a webinar on it for YoYo, and it's pretty simple and easy to do. And you can also make games single player, but do the netcode in there and then easily add multiplayer later. I think this is really, really cool. Rollback is a fantastic addition to GameMaker. Now, could GameMaker do multiplayer before? Absolutely. You have things like sockets and buffers to create your own multiplayer game. And Rollback is actually really limited when you start looking at it. It can only do 1 to 4 players. It's not persistent, and they are still adding more features, and it's also completely dependent on them because you're using their servers and calling their functions, which you don't necessarily know what's happening. And I did have some concerns about this, and so I actually reached out to some of the developers, and they let me know that Opera is actually one of the oldest browsers in the game, if not the oldest. And besides maybe Microsoft, but even Internet Explorer just died, and so Edge is a new browser. So Opera has actually been around a super long time. They've been doing gaming stuff for a very long time, and the idea that their servers are going to go down anytime soon is kind of ridiculous. They sound really, really committed to this partnership, or this ownership of GameMaker now, and integrating it into Opera on a lot of different levels. So Rollback itself, super cool. I'm actually a big fan of it. If you have a game that you want to make that fits within its parameters, I definitely think it's the system to use. Now, if you are making anything else or you want to have a custom game, then yeah, you still need to make the netcode yourself. You got to do all that. There's no real way around it. Rollback is not for everyone, and it's not for everything. But as a completely free addition, man, it is really, really cool. It's awesome. So Rollback has been something that I've been heavily involved in, and I think is really, really cool. The thing that I've been also involved in is this game maker coaching that they announced. So back in January of this year, I teamed up with them, and that's what I've been doing the webinars on. Now, when they officially reached out to me talking about game maker coaching, I definitely thought it was going to be more of like small group coaching or like tutoring one-on-one, stuff like that. So far, it's been video making and webinars, which is fine. I really enjoy the webinars. The YoYo community is so awesome. I did one of my webinars and I had some serious internet and video connection problems when I was doing my shader webinar. And the people in there were just awesome. They were hilarious. They gave me some tips on how to bypass some of the problems that I was having because I just couldn't figure it out. And it was just a lot of fun. Like, being in that kind of community is awesome. And if you're watching this now, you are part of that community. And let me just tell you that the game maker community and forums and video makers, these are some of the best people ever. And the people working on YoYo really, really want to make Game Maker great, which is why they're doing these things. They are pouring a tremendous amount of money and energy into this, which as a game developer and someone who teaches Game Maker and wants to make a living off of doing stuff like this, that's a big deal, because I don't want to support, or I don't want to devote my time to something that's going to die. It just doesn't make any sense at all. And so when I see them devoting both time and a tremendous amount of resources and money into Game Maker, I think that's really awesome. It makes me feel much more confident in that regard. So if you haven't seen their webinars, they are aimed more at beginners. But I did a shaders one, which was definitely more of an intermediate level. And then I did rollback, which was a brand new feature. And so there really wasn't anybody who knew what they were doing with it. And so even if you're not a total beginner, I think there's something to get out of those. Just kind of plugging my own content here. But really, this is cool. I think them doing this Game Maker coaching is really awesome. They've also been doing, let's see, YoYo Games Twitter. They've also been doing a lot of stuff. They were just at, I think, PAX, and they've also been doing lots of giveaways and competitions, and it's awesome. They're really active. They're really out there, and they're doing a lot. Oh yeah, Feather. Feather's a new thing. If you haven't seen that or used it yet, Feather is simply fantastic. It's about time. Like, literally, it's taken them forever to get this out. It should have been in here ages ago. But if you go into regular Game Maker and you go down, let's see, I think it actually has Feather. Yeah, right here. You need to enable it first. But then once you've enabled it, man, it's so much better. So you can just start using it, and you can, let's say, like, draw string. I keep doing that, draw string. Draw text. So it's a little aggressive in that it shows you, like, right away that something is wrong, but bam, you hover over the function or the variable, and it tells you right there the manual definition, examples, and arguments. You don't have to open the manual every single time now. Plus, it also remembers things. So, like, if you do my name equals 100, and then you want to use that anywhere later on, but you're not sure of the data type, it actually points that out for you right there. Super useful. Like, kind of things that should have been in here for a while. Like, I've done a lot of Visual Studio Code, or a lot of Visual Studio coding in my day, and they have some great autocomplete and features in there, and it's just time that this came to Game Maker. Like, Feather is awesome. It's still not completely here yet, but it's getting close. So that's a really big thing as well. The other really cool thing that they've actually been doing and giving away, is the Game Maker bundles. So if you are subscribed, you get free assets from Game Maker, and these are actually really cool and very high quality. So the newest one that they just put out was the World Tile Sets, and they've already put out tracks and backgrounds and sprites and full things to create games like this Maritime Mayhem, the space sci-fi, the fantasy side-scrolling. These things, like, you have to be subscribed to Game Maker, but after that, they're yours. You download them and you can use them forever in any project, and there's no royalty fees. I don't even think you have to give them attribution. They're just yours. And this is awesome. Like, at the very least, they are contributing to the assets that are out there in the world. And that is great. I would love it if this was actually for everyone. I think putting it behind a paywall is kind of a shame, but I also understand it's to incentivize you. Even if it's just for a month, you buy it for like $10, you get all this stuff. That's way more than you're going to get anywhere else. So I get it, but I also think it would be a really cool and great PR move to just release these things every month for free. Like, maybe you get them for the first month when you're subscribed, and then after that they go free. I don't know. But this is, to me, another really big sign that they are committed. This is really great stuff. Yeah, I love it. And then lastly, let's look at where they're going. So when we look at the roadmap, they have this up, and you can check it out, and it's really great. So it shows you what they did work on. Green means it's done. Blue means they're working on it now. And yellow also means they're working on it, but less finished. And then you've got orange and white, which are going to be in the future. So you can see everything that they're actually working on at any given time with the estimated completion date. So one of the big things that I am super excited about, let's see, I think it's in development, is this one right here, the LTS, long-term stable. This, I think, is super important. If you're making a game and you want to have a version of GameMaker that you can just use for the duration of that project without updates breaking things, because GameMaker has been doing a better job. Okay, I say better job, but it's kind of a mixed bag depending on where you're at. GameMaker for a long, long time prided itself on backwards compatibility to the point where it was starting to cripple itself. They had so much stuff in there that was meant for legacy projects that was never used and nobody needed it, and yet it was in there, taking up space, confusing newbies, and just getting in the way. And they've been doing a better job at getting rid of that stuff. But when that happens, it can change the whole runtime or the software, the game engine itself, and it can make your projects not work properly. So this LTS is a one version for a long time. And as a teacher using GameMaker in a class, I am super excited to actually get this installed so that I no longer have to tell people, yeah, let's download the update now, or let's just ignore that every single class. This is something I can install, let it go for 2 years. This is also going to be great for the courses that I'm going to be producing soon. So I've got lots of levels of courses I'm working on, and I'm going to redo my book here soon, and I'm going to be using the LTS. That means my content will be useful, guaranteed, for 2 years. Like, the courses I still have out are actually still being purchased and enjoyed by people. It's still useful, but it can be a little trickier when things don't match up when I say go here or someone says go there and it's not actually there. So this LTS version, I'm actually super excited for. And then in general, GameMaker is turning into a much more streamlined software. They've said they're going to make a lot of changes, like they want to actually get rid of the workspace, and they're making strides in that regard by turning many more things into the inspector. So if you're not familiar with the inspector, something you can do with that is you can open up like a room and you can go to Windows and you can view the inspector, and then over here you can actually see details about every layer, everything that's on here, and you can alter it. Like, the sequence inspector is actually super powerful, and there's things that you can only do inside of the sequence inspector. And so they're trying to move things over to this inspector area, which I get, it makes sense, but I'm also not sure how it's going to look or work. I'm kind of curious. So, we'll see how that turns out. But I think it's great that they have ideas of where they're going and that they want to make changes. To me, that's a sign that they are committed and that things are happening. So overall, what I would say is since YoYo purchased GameMaker 2 years ago, and since I really joined them about 8, 9, maybe like a year ago myself now, I am hopeful. I think GameMaker right now is in a fantastic state, and I really think they're going places. There's a plethora of game engines out there. I know Godot just got a ton of funding, and they are doing great. I know Unreal just, not just, but a little while ago, showed off Unreal Engine 5, and like the tech demos on there are absolutely gorgeous. And I don't know what Unity's doing. Either they're really quiet or I just haven't seen. But whatever the case, there's a lot of engines out there, and they're all doing great. I don't think GameMaker is going anywhere. I don't think GameMaker is losing ground. If anything, I really do think they are gaining ground at this point. More people are coming to them because they're easy. They're giving away a lot of content. I guess the last thing that they did recently was that they switched to subscription model, which, yeah, okay. Their reasoning was that, let's see. Their reasoning was that it is it happens it's a subscription that happens every month, just like everything else you're used to at this point. But because it's a software that continually gets updates, then it's a subscription. That's why. So I think it would be really great if, like with the LTS version, they offered a one-time payment, so you could just buy it for like $100 or $200 or something and have access to everything during that LTS version. I doubt that will happen. That is just spitballing. But it's an idea. It's out there. And I'm not a huge fan of the subscription, but kind of what I say when looking at it is the subscription is just for exporting. So if you're making a game, you don't need to have a subscription until like the last 6 months. And even then, you don't need to have a subscription to everything, just the consoles or systems you're going to be exporting it to. So in the long run, it's actually a lot cheaper because you just pay for the subscription during the time you need it, and then your game is done and you're good to go. And I think that is a really great way, especially if you think your game is going to do well. You don't want to have to pay 5-10% of $1 million to Unreal or Epic or Unity or whatever. And when you could have just made it here for a 2D game. Obviously, every game engine has its strengths and weaknesses, and I'm not saying that GameMaker is going to replace Unreal because they're not in the same field in the slightest, and that's okay. I like GameMaker because it works for what I want to do. And if it doesn't work for you, then why are you watching this video? Go find an engine that works. So, yeah, that's a lot. I covered a bunch there because this is the first video. I'm going to try doing one of these once a month. And if you guys are interested, we'll do it as a live stream or as a premiere so I can be there with you and we can just chat. But as it is, put any questions down in the comments and I will get back to you. And that's it. So until next time, keep making, keep learning, and I'll talk to you later.